Hey, hello, welcome to the show. It's me, John Park, and it is time both to dance and for JP's product pick of the week. So thank you so much for stopping by here today. Let's get to it. We've got a really cool product today, and I don't want to wait any longer. So what I will tell you to do, if you want to hop on over to the webpage, you can use that QR code right there, point a thing at it, that'll get you there, or just type in this URL that you see at the bottom. It's product ID 5325, and that will take you to our product pick, where we have a tremendous discount during the live stream. You don't need any coupon codes, any special secret knocks, nothing like that. You just put it in your cart, up to 10 of them, and you will see the price reflected in the cart. Check out before the end of the show, and there you go. Also, sometimes people like to point out if it's a popular item, it may disappear sooner rather than later. So keep an eye on that if it's something that you want. But how do you know what it is? Well, what I'll do is ask Mrs. Lady Ada herself to tell us all about it.
Yes, it's finally here. Another cutie pie, the third in our cutie pie family, the ESP32-S2 cutie pie, which brings so much espresso this week. This is the ESP32-S2, which is a single-core Tensilica Wi-Fi processor. It's a lot like the ESP32, but it doesn't need a USB to serial converter chip, which means we can make it so small that it fits in something that's like smaller than a quarter.
This is the tiniest board ever.
It's so small. So there's an ESP32-S2. There's a USB Type-C connector for uploading and powering. There's a STEMMA QT port, so you can plug and play, add I2C sensors. It's got 13 GPIO total, 11 on pads, and
it's so small we have to force the overhead to refocus.
I know, it does.
The overhead is shocked.
Okay.
How is this so small?
It's so small. So you've got analog. I think almost every one of these pins has analog, but there's like 4 dedicated analog here, 2 pins that are labeled for I2C. There's a second I2C port on the STEMMA QT, so you've got like another 2 pins. Hardware UART, hardware SPI pins on the high-speed SPI port, which means that these 3 pins cannot do analog. They're the only 3 pins that don't, because the high-speed SPI is worth it. It's amazing. It's like, you know, some ridiculous megahertz, like 60 or 80 megahertz. So to connect to TFTs or some devices, very, very high speed. You've got the boot button and the reset button. The boot button can also be used as a user button. There's a regulator. There's a little NeoPixel right here that glows rainbow or whatever. You can use it for signaling. There's a ceramic antenna on the top. And on the bottom, you've got the ESP32-S2 chip with the crystals and passes, a lot of 0402s. The antenna goes out here. And here is 2 more pads for battery input, and this is diode protected, so you can have, you know, that we're using the C-Chow pinout, and they kind of decided that the 5-volt line was output, not input, and so you'd have to use a diode and whatever. But basically, if you want to connect a battery up, you can connect to these 2 pads, and they're they're diode protected, so when you plug in USB, you're not going to damage the USB or the battery from that. And it's got castellated pads, and it's super small, and you can use it with Arduino or CircuitPython. It's got 4 megabytes of flash and 2 megabytes of PSRAM. So I was waiting to release this until I could get the chips that had the PSRAM, because that 2 megabytes of PSRAM is so handy.
Wi-Fi. This is amazing.
So tiny. We've also got a new revision for the ESP32-S2 Cutie Pie. This board came out. It was good, but I made a little mistake on the low power mode for deep sleep. It's been fixed. I also rotated the antenna, so it's pointing out, and get like 3 dB better gain. So, you know, more gain is better gain. Otherwise, it's the same, so it's just upgraded and updated. It's adorable. It can run CircuitPython. It can run Arduino. It's got 4 megabytes of flash, 2 megabytes of PSRAM, all inside that little chip. So a great little board if you want to have a miniature Arduino or CircuitPython Wi-Fi capable microcontroller that's like fingernail sized.
Yes, in fact it is. So first of all, what I'm going to do is jump down here to my down shooter and grab one out of this week's mystery packaging, which is a matchbox. And look at that. You could probably fit 8 of them in here, I'll bet. I just have the one. Actually, I have a couple, but let's take a look at that. That right there is this week's product pick of the week. It is the QT Py ESP32-S2. It's a Wi-Fi dev board. It has STEMMA QT built right on it. It's our delightful little QT Py form factor, and this means it's going to be pin compatible with the Siege Zhao. It has the little castellated pads on the side, which makes it useful for soldering onto other designs. It's also got pins. It has 13 GPIO pins on it. It has native USB, so we don't need an extra chip. And so in fact, we've got the little USB-C connector on there. It's a 240 megahertz single core Tensilica processor. It has 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi on there. What else? There's the 4 gigs of flash. There's 4 megs of flash, 2 megs of RAM on there. And what I'll do is actually, let's take a little tour here. First of all, I'll jump over to the web page for it. That right there is the page, so you can see. Let's see if we still got them in stock. These will go quick. These are half price right now, so $6.25 will get it for you. Maximum of 10%. It seems like it's still in stock. If you take a look at the page here, it'll give you some of the info about the board. And what we can do is click on over to the Learn guide there. You can see here, and this gives you some info about it. You'll notice there's, I actually have the older version, so this got revised. I don't have the revised one yet. Older version works just great, other than it has a little diminished Wi-Fi range because of the antenna orientation, and it does not do as efficient of a sleep, but I'm not doing any of that in my current projects for it. So this one works great, but the new one is even better. Same product ID, so you'll just get the new one if you order now. This takes you through info on using it with CircuitPython, with using it with Arduino, and something I wanted to demo today is using this with Whippersnapper. So let's, first of all, what the heck is Whippersnapper? So we've got our QT Py here, except this one has built-in Wi-Fi, and we have a special UF2 file you can flash this with that essentially is the only thing you need to do is drag something on here, and two things. Drag a file onto here, a UF2 file that preps it for use with Whippersnapper, and then edit your secrets.py file to have your Adafruit username and password for Adafruit IO, as well as your Wi-Fi SSID and password. So you make a couple little quick changes, and then you don't even need to code it in a traditional sense. What you can do is go here to this page, have it find your board. If I refresh here, it should find this board. Oh, it's saying offline. I'm not sure why. We'll see how that demo goes. But once it finds that board, you can add components to it by simply clicking on New Component. So I added to this one right here. In fact, let me go to the down shooter for this. So let's take a look at what I've got. Move some things out of the way here, and bump up my exposure a little bit. You can see that's glowing blue right now because it's connected to Wi-Fi. So what I have is my QT Py, and I've plugged into it a couple of different outboard sensor boards. So I have a BME230, which is a temperature sensor, also does pressure and humidity and a couple other things, altitude. And then I have a light sensor here. So this is the TSL2591 light sensor. So I've plugged those into my board, and then over here in Adafruit IO, I have added those by simply clicking Add New Component and telling it the components I want to add. That means that it can immediately be used in Adafruit IO as a remote sensor. So you'll see here I've got sensor data that's been streaming in and being graphed in my Adafruit IO dashboard. That was all the coding necessary. Literally click on a button and tell it to add a thing. You'll see one of the things I added here was my button. Yeah, let me see if I can get this to get back on the network. I just changed the network it was going on to before the show, which is always dangerous, but let's see. So I'm going to refresh a couple of these pages here, and let's see if it finds it. Let's go over to the feed here. No, maybe not. Okay, I may have lost Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, I was connected to a Wi-Fi that's a little far away inside the house, so I might not have that anymore. But when this is working, you'll get a indicator. I have this little indicator here that says status indicator that will update, and then it's just going to stream in data at whatever interval you tell it to. If I go here, it might not let me. Yeah, okay, so it'll pretend to let me add some things even though this board isn't connected right now. So I can go in and add some sort of traditional components. I can also add in some I2C boards that have been added to the library here, and they get found pretty automatically. Yeah, you know what, let me see if I can, if you don't mind sitting here for a moment, I'm going to see if I can get this guy online, because it's a much more exciting demo when it actually gets online. And I will check my serial output to see when it connects. So I'm seeing it attempt to connect to Adafruit I/O, but it could be my Wi-Fi router. Oh yeah, it's saying unable to connect. You know what, I'm gonna, 1 second here, I'm gonna switch it over to a different Wi-Fi router and see. The one that's in here in the workshop may not be actually functioning. So hold on 1 second. Let's make a quick change. It could be tricky because it's going to be trying to make its way through a few walls and it doesn't have an external antenna. So let's see. Okay, I'm not showing this because I'm editing some of my Wi-Fi passwords and things like that, and resaving my secrets file, secrets.json actually. I said pi earlier. And let me restart the board here. Okay, I've got it online. Okay, so that's funny because it's a pretty far away network, but hey, it's working, so I won't complain. So what we should see now is in my dashboard here, if I press the little boot button here, I'm actually using it as an I/O button, so you'll see my little status indicator light up green down there at the bottom. It's right here. And then you'll also see, I think I have it set to every 30 seconds, a piece of data from my temperature sensor and my light sensor will come in. I didn't ask it to use every sensor on the board, but if we watch here in just a few more seconds, you'll see it'll pop up a new time code and a new value for the BME 280 and the TSL 2591. So now my temperature is at 28 centigrade and 124. So what I'll do is I'll actually cover these sensors with my hand, which means we should get a darker light sensor and we should get a warmer temperature sensor, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if I'm warmer than the ambient temperature. It's kind of hot here. And I think 30 seconds is maybe the shortest interval we can do in Whippersnapper, just so you don't flood that with data. But for something that's active, like the button, we can press that kind of anytime we want and get an update from that. So here you can see I've raised the temperature by degree or so, and I have dropped the lux sensor down to almost 0, so we can leave that alone. And then you can use all of the other sort of goodies in Adafruit I/O to not just chart the data, but use it for something. So if you want to monitor something remotely, this is a really good solution for that. In fact, one of the things that Lady Ada mentioned, and I'll go to a full camera here for a second, is that we have on the back of that a little port for battery. So it's not a charger, but it does allow us to plug in battery. So I soldered a little pigtail JST connector on there, and if I take any of our little LiPo batteries and plug that in there, now I can unplug from USB, and you can see it's still on. It's still gonna give me some updates over here in the where's my Chrome? There we go. In the dashboard, I'm gonna go ahead and click that boot button, and you should see that just changed to green when I pressed that there. So that's a really neat, I've got it kind of goofy setup here, but if you wanted to use one of the cool little cases that the Ruiz brothers made, or mount this somewhere onto a wall or something like that, put it into a little enclosure somewhere, depending on the sensors you're using. Really neat, tiny little Wi-Fi solution using that QT Py ESP32-S2. So let's see. Let me go ahead and check in with the chat. If you're wondering, by the way, the chat going on is over in the Discord, and I'm watching YouTube chat as well. So if you're somewhere else and wondering where people are chatting, this is what our Discord chat looks like. Abados says, JP's a pro, no doxing today. Well, I don't know if I'm a pro, but I at least occasionally remember to not show off all of my important passwords on a live stream. Let's see. Oh, wow, Rich Sad has a cool seed setup he's showing there. This, I think, a little seed-based carrier board that you can plug any of these Xiao format boards into. Any of these cutie pies should work. And as a reminder, if you head on over to that URL there, if we still have them in stock, you can go pick these up really, really cheaply. Let me refresh it before I say any more. But yeah, still in stock. $6.25 will get you one, so get a few if you want. And pretty much any of our STEMMA QT sensor boards will work with it. However, if you want to use the ones that are available for Whippersnapper, now that I've got this online, I'll show you. Let me bring back this little view here, and I'll bring up my Chrome browser here. So this is what it looks like when we take, and you can see I'm running off of battery power now. I'm going to go ahead and focus again since I'm moving cameras around. So here you can see I got my Cutie Pie, I have the temperature sensor, I have the light sensor, and I have a little battery, so I'm running this off of battery. And if I go over to the Whippersnapper interface here, I can click on New Component, and these are the components that have been already created as a sort of almost a plug and play or drag and drop. So we can pick any of these sensors here, including this really nice CO2 sensor. Click to add it, and then you have to tell it, of course, which I2C address it's on if it's not plugged in this case, it's not actually going to work. Or we can go and add in some other components. If I look at this page now, you can see we're just reading this temperature sensor, and I'm reporting only temperature. However, I can enable humidity here, pressure, and even an altitude, and then tell it the interval to send that over to Adafruit I/O. It basically builds it right into your feed, and then when you go into the main interface here, you can say, oh, you know, I want to create a new block, pick what that block is going to look like, and what you want to measure. So I can say, okay, here's my ESP32-S2 Cutie Pie, and I want my temperature to show up in this little gauge here, and then you can give that some parameters for minimum and maximum value, decide where it's going to go, and now you've Adafruit I/O whippersnappered your Cutie Pie to give you all the info you need. So let me know if you have any other questions in the chat. Thanks for your patience. I'm glad that got that working. It's a much more interesting demo when it works, but Wi-Fi is always a bit kooky. And let's see, I think that's going to do it. So let me pop back on over here, and we can wrap this up. So don't forget, head on over to that URL right there if you want to go pick up some of these before they're all gone. Maybe they won't all be gone, but they're certainly at a great price right now if you need one. And I will drop those off of there and say, that is my product pick of the week. It is the ESP32-S2 Cutie Pie Wi-Fi dev board with STEMMA QT built in. And I have one here somewhere. Where did I put it? Ready to go on the hanger board. There we go. There it is. Let's go ahead and put that up on the board, and that's going to do it. So thank you everyone so much for stopping by for another episode of JP's Product Pick of the Week. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow to 3D Hangouts. Tomorrow evening, I'll be hosting a show and tell, and then we'll have Ask an Engineer on Thursday instead of Wednesday this week. And I'll also have my workshop show on Thursday, Deep Dive with Tim on Friday. So thank you everyone so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.